Artisan picture window comes in various configurations.
62 years, that's something to be said, right?
Imagine entering a house where every element reflects the daring inventiveness and endearing eccentricities of a decade that influenced how we live today. During the 1930s, homeowners were implementing features that seemed avant-garde, design was taking bold chances, and technology was pushing the envelope. There were many surprises in the 1930s, from luxuriously furnished rooms to the newest comfort devices. So come along as we explore 25 incredible 1930s house features that have been lost to time. This dumbwaiter was a little elevator system that was used to move food, washing, and other stuff between floors in a multi-story house. No, we are not talking about a quiet person. Dumbwaiters, which were common in the 1930s, were wall-mounted devices that raised and lowered tiny objects using a pulley system. It was a true luxury feature in homes, particularly multi-story residences.
As the solution for this problem, we present you with the food lift, popularly known as dumbwaiter, to carry the food between the floors.
And it made life a little bit easier by saving energy and time. Imagine not having to go upstairs to deliver a dish of food to a dining room on the second story. Since then, many households have abandoned these ingenious devices in favor of contemporary elevators or, regrettably, the good old-fashioned staircases. However, a dumbwaiter used to be as commonplace as a dishwasher is now. It may seem unbelievable, but some homes from the 1930s included radiant floor heating, a contemporary convenience that many of us now look for in our homes. This heating technique warmed rooms from the bottom up by circulating hot water or steam through pipes set into the floor. It was seen as both opulent and effective.
Underfloor heating system rather than an electric one, but if you don't have the facilities for doing that, then by all means go for the electric one.
Particularly for residences in colder climates. One of the first attempts at contemporary home comfort technology, this system was installed in a few upscale residences in the 1930s. Radiant floor heating was a luxury that only a select few could afford, but it has now made a resurgence. The Art Deco movement, which had an impact on architecture and design during the 1930s, was typified by the kitchen's aggressive, geometric designs and high-gloss finishes. These kitchens were like works of art, with streamlined cabinetry, chrome equipment, and elaborate wall and floor patterns.
People who are interested in having the very latest ideas in design that will help them cut down on the time and the effort that must be spent in doing kitchen work.
That were intended to be both aesthetically pleasing and useful. By the middle of the 20th century, tastes had moved toward more functional, minimalist designs, even if Art Deco was still very much a representation of luxury and modernity. It is difficult to locate a kitchen in the modern era that still features the lavish style of the 1930s. Making the most of every square inch of one's home was the rage in the 1930s. The spinning table cabinet was one of the most amazing creations that sprang from this. Imagine having a cabinet that has a rotating built-in table. It served as a desk, eating table, and reading area all in one. It could be rotated to any desired position, making it ideal for working, eating, or simply reading. Imagine a convertible sofa where you rotate a full table rather than just the cushions. Very intelligent, huh? Over time, people shifted away from these clever spinning pieces of furniture in favor of more permanent stationary settings, particularly in the 1940s and 1950s when homes began to get smaller and sleeker. Still, how awesome was that concept? In the 1930s, there were electric home jacuzzis, which predated spa tubs and contemporary whirlpool bathtubs. In essence, these early hot tubs were big bathtubs that were electrically driven and had built-in jets that produced whirling water currents. They were frequently placed in bathrooms or on private patios.
This hot tub is available in all sorts of colours, although this model is silver marble and grey. Comes with a grey colour-coded lid, if you would like to ask us any details about those.
And were regarded as an opulent addition to any house. For its time, the technology was quite sophisticated, providing residents with a spa-like experience in their own homes. These early jacuzzis were uncommon in most homes, though, because they were frequently large and challenging to maintain. Home jacuzzis improved in efficiency and sophistication over time, finally giving rise to the widely used ones of today. A double-sided fireplace is most likely what you have been looking at if you have ever seen one that could be viewed from two rooms simultaneously. These fireplaces, which were popular in the 1930s, were made to open up to two adjacent rooms.
When there is a fire with two lift doors open, both the plates will automatically open up completely, and therefore there will be no more smoke in the living room,
giving residents the opportunity to enjoy the coziness and warmth of a fire from a variety of locations. Consider it a comfortable method to join dining and living spaces, or even sitting rooms and bedrooms, without sacrificing the feeling of openness and luxury. Double-sided fireplaces are still seen in some contemporary homes, but their use has waned mostly as a result of shifting house designs and the need for more energy-efficient heating systems. In the meantime, another ingenious design from the time transformed a typical home element into something useful and fashionable. A popular element of the 1930s was the breakfast nook, a charming and comfortable area incorporated into the kitchen. These compact, cozy areas, which frequently included built-in benches or booths, were intended for informal dinners or family breakfasts. The nook offered a comfortable, discreet dining area, frequently furnished with a modest table and window views that added a little brightness to the mornings. Larger eating spaces or islands took the role of the breakfast nook as larger, open-plan kitchens became more popular in later decades. Nevertheless, many people hope that the concept of having a small room for breakfast will return because it has a unique quality. Murals were very popular in homes in the 1930s, and they were not just any kind of ornament. These murals, which may feature anything from exquisite flower patterns to picturesque landscapes, were frequently hand-painted by gifted painters. They transformed blank walls into striking works of art, bringing an entirely new level of beauty into homes. Imagine entering a living area that has a huge hand-painted scene of colorful flowers or rolling hills. These personalized murals have largely disappeared, even though we still adore painted walls and wallpaper today. Why? Well, because they were less expensive and easier to make, mass-produced decals and wallpaper replaced them. But to be honest, those murals from the 1930s had a certain enchantment that could turn a whole space into a masterpiece. It is a difficult style to top. However, throughout the 1930s, there were other ways to give a house a sense of mystery and refinement than murals. The icebox, an insulated box that used big chunks of ice to keep food cold, existed before contemporary refrigerators. Large blocks of ice were frequently delivered to residences by icemen in the 1930s. When ice delivery services were widespread in cities, perishables were kept cool by the ice, which was kept in a separate section of the icebox. Before refrigeration technology advanced, this method was a must for homes.
In most cases, they were double-walled or lined inside, double-walled in most cases. So you put the block in the top, and then whatever you wanted to keep cool was under.
Despite its drawbacks, such as the ongoing need for ice and the possibility of mess when the ice melted. The icebox system soon grew outdated as household refrigerators got more economical and effective. The word icebox may be employed today as a throwback to the bygone ice-dependent days. A common feature of 1930s architecture was the use of leaded glass windows, particularly in Tudor or Art Deco-style homes. Small panes of glass, frequently with frosted or tinted glass, were held together by elaborate patterns of lead strips in these windows. They were works of art that gave any house style and appeal in addition to being useful,
leading to a resurgence in their use not only in churches but also in civic buildings, universities, and even private homes.
Leaded glass windows created a lovely play of light and color in the house while offering seclusion and letting in natural light. Due to the cost of installation and the availability of contemporary window materials, leaded glass windows are less common today. However, they are still present in some old residences. Secret rooms and concealed compartments were common architectural elements in some homes throughout the 1930s. These secret areas were frequently utilized to hide treasures, make secret pathways, or give a house a feeling of intrigue and mystery. Some residences featured skillfully disguised cabinets or compartments behind panels in the wall. While others featured sliding bookcases that led to secret rooms. Luxury residences or homes constructed by affluent families who wished to add a little flair or even security frequently included these hidden areas. The concept of hiding things in plain sight is far less frequent today, even though secret chambers can still be found in certain contemporary homes. This is because contemporary security systems and home designs no longer place as much emphasis on secrecy. In the 1930s, radiators were necessary for home heating, but they were frequently seen as ugly. Therefore, it was a smart idea for homeowners to conceal them behind fashionable radiator covers, many of which also served as built-in chairs, making the most of the available space.
So I did that for the left side, and then I rotated to the right side and then used my nail gun to attach the strips onto the whole frame itself.
These ingenious covers not only concealed the large radiators, but also added more seating to the house. To absorb the warmth these coverings offered, people frequently sat on them. This feature gradually vanished as radiator covers became less necessary and central heating systems got more efficient, although it previously had a highly useful and inventive function. In the 1930s, laundry chutes revolutionized the way people handled the onerous task of doing laundry. Imagine being upstairs, perhaps in your bathroom or bedroom, and dropping your filthy clothing down a special chute rather of carrying them all the way downstairs.
Just coming down kind of slowly. Holy cow, it made it!
Yes, with little effort, these vertical chutes sent clothes straight to the basement or laundry room below. It was similar to having an elevator for your laundry. In larger households, where carrying laundry upstairs and downstairs could take an eternity, this was extremely helpful. Laundry chutes, however, are somewhat uncommon these days. Although some older homes may still have them, the majority of homes now have more contemporary features such as separate laundry rooms and effective storage areas. Nevertheless, it is entertaining to consider how much easier life could be with a small chute. Despite being common in many homes today, walk-in closets date back to the 1930s. In the past, these closets served as more than just places to keep clothing. They were opulent areas created to assist homeowners in stylishly organizing their wardrobes. To keep your shoes organized, picture a closet with built-in shelves and shoe racks in addition to hanging rods. Even mirrors were available, so you could inspect your attire before leaving. Although walk-in closet designs became more functional and effective over time, the 1930s model had a unique glitz that made getting dressed up seem like a big deal. Imagine entering a house from the 1930s and being met by enormous windows that go all the way to the ceiling and provide stunning views of the outside world. These were referred to as picture windows, and at the time, they were very popular.
Those with a casement, and the white one is two-third picture.
The concept was straightforward, to provide a framing for nature, letting natural light enter the house and providing unhindered vistas. Picture windows, with their broad glass panes and simple lines, were a defining characteristic of Art Deco and modernist architecture. Usually found in living rooms, they provided residents with a broad perspective of their surroundings. Though they are still found in certain homes, picture windows lost their prominence as a main architectural element as larger and more functional window designs became the standard. How did homeowners in the 1930s maximize their indoor space when picture windows allowed the outdoors in? A sunroom with an integrated bar was one of the greatest locations to have visitors during the 1930s, when leisure and amusement were regarded as necessities in the house. As autumn colors fall. These light-filled rooms were intended to receive as much natural light as possible, and they frequently had elaborate woodwork, comfortable furnishings, and of course, a bar where drinks could be served. The sunroom was thought to be the best place to unwind, mingle, or have a quiet time while sipping cocktails. In modern times, sunrooms are still common, but the idea of a built-in bar has mostly disappeared. In many houses, the more formal dining room or home theater has become the focal point. Phones were not the portable gadgets we carry around today in the 1930s. Rather, these were fixed-line phones that were frequently kept in a telephone nook. A little, specially designated space in the house. These comfortable, secluded areas usually had a chair where one might sit and talk for hours on end, as well as a tiny table or shelf for taking notes. In the days before cell phones, telephone books were a necessary feature and were put in bedrooms, foyers, and corridors. These quaint alcoves gradually vanished with the development of cell phones, as the necessity for a specific area for phone conversations was rendered unnecessary. They serve as a humorous reminder, nevertheless, of how the telephone used to be the main means of contact in the house. In the 1930s, if you were feeling overburdened, you would rest on a fainting sofa rather than just a couch. These exquisite pieces of furniture, which were frequently found in homes belonging to the upper class, were made for reclining, usually in a dramatic manner.
Couch. Love to see little antique looking thing. I know it's not.
A place to lie down when feeling a little lightheaded or simply wanting to unwind in style. The fainting couch, typically a little low chaise lounge, was a representation of elegance and sophistication. However, the fainting couch eventually vanished as people's habits and times changed. Nowadays, rather than reaching for a piece of furniture that seems like it was designed for a scene in a classic novel, we are more likely to reach for a comfortable sofa or a recliner when we need to unwind. The kitchen, another 1930s mainstay, adopted bold, contemporary style as the fainting sofa disappeared. It took a lot of elbow grease to make a batch of pancakes or cake batter before the invention of modern electric mixers. An ingenious device with revolving metal beaters driven by a side crank, the hand-cranked egg beater was a mainstay in kitchens throughout the 1930s. Using the rhythmic motion of rotating the handle, housewives and home bakers used this straightforward yet efficient equipment to combine ingredients, mix batters, and whisk eggs. It was a test of endurance and patience, particularly for recipes that called for a lot of mixing. Despite being groundbreaking at the time, the hand-cranked beater eventually became obsolete as electric mixers replaced it in the 1950s. Even though it is more of a vintage curio now than a necessary kitchen tool, its retro appeal still makes people smile when they think back on the times they used one. Some of the 1930s home innovations demanded physical strength, but may they have also provided surprising comfort in unexpected ways. Washing clothes was a laborious chore that required a lot of hand washing and scrubbing prior to the 1930s. Then came the electric washing machine, which revolutionized domestic tasks. The modern, streamlined front-loading washers were not present in these early models. Rather, they were large, mechanical devices that wrung out garments with the use of rollers. In the 1930s, these devices quickly became necessities in homes because they performed incredibly well, particularly in homes with bigger families. However, they developed over time into the smaller, quieter, and more effective devices we use today. Although it may sound like something from an old film, many homes from the 1930s had true servants' quarters, which were distinct dwelling areas for domestic staff, usually in the attic or over the kitchen. After a hard day of work, the helpers might sleep, eat, and relax in these typically simple, tiny, and sparsely furnished quarters. Such rooms were a symbol of a wealthy and distinguished residence with sufficient revenue to sustain live-in assistance. But as society changed and standards changed, servant quarters became less popular, especially after World War II, when daily hired labor replaced live-in servants and domestic work became less regimented. Before the days of music streaming services and binge-watching television, the radio was the main source of entertainment in most houses. In the 1930s, radio consoles were huge, finely crafted pieces of furniture designed to blend in seamlessly with the living room's design.
And the detectives wonder, well, anyhow, that district, Mr. Tracy, is covered by wet wash, Wally.
These consoles were essential to social gatherings, added to the atmosphere, and functioned as status symbols in addition to being used for listening to music and news. Families would gather around these radios to enjoy comedies and live broadcasts of important events. These days, most of us almost ever use radios, and instead rely on our phones or streaming services. It is hard to believe that the big mahogany radio console was once the focal point of American living rooms. People were searching for ways to establish their own green spaces in the 1930s, particularly in urban areas. Roof gardens are the answer. A haven from the activity below, many homeowners, especially in urban areas, turned their flat rooftops into verdant gardens. Flowers, little trees, and even vegetable gardens were frequently found in these areas.
To the roof of a famous London store.
The goal was to enjoy some fresh air without leaving the comforts of home by bringing nature into an urban setting. Although they are still prevalent in some places today, roof gardens are now more frequently connected to contemporary architecture and eco-friendly practices. In the 1930s, the invention of the built-in vacuum cleaner was going to make housework much simpler. It was a central vacuum system, which was put directly into the house. Each room was connected to a central unit, usually found in the attic or basement, by pipes that ran through the walls. Imagine simply connecting a hose to each room's outlet and being done. No more carrying a bulky vacuum or fumbling with outlets all the time. This feature, which provided households with convenience and cleanliness, was regarded as groundbreaking. These days, lightweight, portable vacuums have taken the place of this technology. However, it was a typical luxury in middle-class to upper-class households in the 1930s. A different focal point drew families together in a manner that no gadget could, while concealed vacuums kept homes neat. In the 1930s, home elevators were very common, especially in multi-story homes with senior occupants or large families. Despite the fact that they would sound like something you would find in a mansion nowadays, these early home elevators were frequently narrow, tiny, and manually controlled, moving the lift with a crank or even a pulley system. These elevators were a luxurious convenience meant to make life easier, even if they were not as modern or automated as those of today. However, the antiquated residential elevators were phased out when more contemporary and effective lifts became available.